time for the Straight Up Wrestling Show.
What's up, everybody? It's HBT with Straight Up Wrestling Show, guys. Give me just a moment, and I will be right with you and pretty much get to the topic that I'm going to be talking about tonight. Hopefully, Christopher Burton will be joining us here in just a little bit. And yeah, he'll be joining us in a little bit, guys. But yeah, we're going to get into this thing, man. So just give me a few minutes here. Give me a few minutes. But yeah, welcome to the Straight Up Wrestling Show, guys. I'm your host, HBT. And like I said, my man Christopher Burton will be here in just a moment. But guys, we're going to be talking about tag team wrestling. And I'm going to come on here and I'm going to be straight up. I'm going to talk about my favorite tag team and the tag team that I think is the best in the world. And most wrestling fans my age definitely agree with me that this team is the best tag team ever. 100%. And that's Ole and Gene Anderson, guys. And for you guys, for you ladies and gentlemen who do not know who Ole and Gene Anderson is, all I can really say is look them up. Look them up because I'm telling you, they was devastating. They was a great tag team. I know a lot of people are going to come in and they're going to run with, hey, the Road Warriors was better. Rock and Roll Express was better. And they're going to say the Hart Foundation, Davey Boy Smith, Dynamite Kid. You know, they're going to say things like that. A lot of people, you know, they will be talking about teams, you know, teams that are better, that was in more in the modern age because they did not see who Ole and Gene Anderson was. But I tell you what, I saw the rest of these teams. There was one guy today after I made a short on the Anderson brothers and talked about how they was the best and everything. And the guy said I must be dreaming or whatever, and he started naming off some teams. He named the Dudley. He said the Dudley Boys, the Hart Foundation, the Usos, and the Hardy Boys. Nowhere close. I saw all those teams. Nowhere close. He did name LOD, Legion of Doom. And from this guy, from what he was talking about and naming the teams that he named, showed me that he was watching the World Wrestling Federation. He saw LOD, Legion of Doom. He saw that version, the World Wrestling Federation version of the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors. Now, the Road Warriors, the Road Warriors, the old Road Warriors of the NWA, the territory days, the Road Warriors who was in AWA, they have a case. Now, if he would have said that, they have a case. But he showed me that he didn't see the Road Warriors until they got old, when they changed the name to LOD, the Legion of Doom, and the World Wrestling Federation. He saw the old version of them, the drunk version of them, put it that way. Hulk, drinking and everything, hey, still love the Road Warriors, love them as Legion of Doom there, but they wasn't the Road Warriors of old. Now, if you want to talk about the Road Warriors of old, yes, they have a case to be anytime anybody talk about the Road Warriors, they have a case to be named the number one tag team of all time. Those guys crushed a lot of people. There's no ins, ands, and buts about it. But that version, Legion of Doom from the World Wrestling Federation, is nowhere near as good as the Anderson brothers. My boys, the Anderson brothers, man, look, they wasn't my favorite tag team. It wasn't at all. As a matter of fact, I didn't like them. When I was little, I definitely didn't like them. But I tell you what, you can't deny greatness. Just because I didn't like the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the 70s doesn't mean that they wasn't the best team of the decade and one of the best football teams of all time, in the top three. I'm talking about the 75 Steelers, the 76 Steelers, the 78 Steelers, the 79 Steelers, and the 80 Steelers. Those 5-6 years there, they was one of the best football team, if not the best football team that ever was assembled. There was greatness there. So, I mean, just because you don't like somebody, I didn't like the San Francisco 49ers, but I can't say the San Francisco 49ers of the early to mid 80s. I say the mid 80s was not one of the best football teams, once again, if not the best football team of all time. You cannot deny greatness. And I hated the Boston Celtics, but I can't deny it's one of the best basketball franchises to ever lace them up. I hated Larry Bird, but Larry Bird was one of the best basketball players ever outside of Michael Jordan. Who's been better when it boils down to it? You know, it might be some people pop in and try to say LeBron James, nowhere near. And some people, they'll try to like compare eras. They'll try to say, oh, that was your era or whatever. No, it's not my era because it's not my era because I've seen everybody that's playing today that I'm watching today. That's still my era. Now, if somebody comes up and they're better than the Road Warriors, I'm going to say it. Yeah, they're better than the Road Warriors. But I haven't seen any team be better than the Road Warriors, and I don't think they'll be able to do it today. And the reason they won't be able to do it today is because there's no focus on tag team wrestling. It really isn't. And every time they try and it look like they're getting close to even establishing a tag team division in any company, it never materializes because nobody's really dedicated to putting together the storylines and things like that needed to make a tag team division, make a tag team division mean anything straight up. So I don't think anybody will ever be as good as those Anderson brothers. What's up, Richard Hood, my man? But yeah, I think no team will ever be as good as the Anderson brothers. Now, when Chris comes in, Chris is going to come in with his argument or whatever, but Chris didn't get to see the Anderson brothers either. Chris came in and he saw the version of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew he saw was Ole and Arn Anderson. Now, I did have some people on TikTok telling me Ole and Arn, the third version of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, was the best. And I'm like, I'm asking this person, did you ever see Ole and Gene Anderson? And obviously they didn't. They didn't. They read about it or whatever, but they thinking that was the better version. And, my response was, hey, that was a good team, but Ole had lost a step. He wasn't the same guy. He was nowhere near the same guy. He wasn't as good as he was when he was younger, when he was teaming with Gene. And when he was with Lars Gene and Lars, that version, it's just Ole surpassed. Ole came in and then Ole and Gene teamed together. They just surpassed that team. Now, the only teams I can really say that was just as good as Ole and Gene Anderson was Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. And yeah, they're my number 2 team of all time. And it's between them and the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott Steiner. And yes, the Road Warriors, they're up there, man. But yeah, when I look at the whole body of work of the Road Warriors, I say no. They're not my top tag team. I know a lot of people are going to put them there. They're the top, they're the top tag team. But I'm not going to sit here and say that's my top tag team because it's not. Let's see. My mom's sending me something. Okay. But yes, but it's a lot of great tag teams. All right, Richard said, what's up, Harry? And Christine Salsa Girl, hey, Harry, how are you tonight? Doing pretty good, Christine. All right, Richard said the Anderson brothers were wrestling technicians. Yes, they were. Yes, they were, man. They was on fire. They could do so many different things. They could brawl. They could wrestle. Their ring technology, ring management, nobody. I mean, you can even argue that their ring management, the ring technology, the ring management, the ring generalship. You can even argue that it was better than Ric Flair's. And Ric Flair probably the best at that ever. I mean, but you could argue that the Anderson brothers was the tag team version of that. Yeah, Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson. Yeah, Ray Stevens and Patterson was great. It was outstanding. And man, look, I even like Rick, the tag team of Ray Stevens and Greg Valentine a lot better than I like Ray Stevens with Pat Patterson. But Stevens and Patterson was great, and they was great for many years. But was they better than the Anderson brothers? I can't say. I ain't gonna sit here and say I can't say. I know they wasn't better. I mean, the Anderson brothers, they're the best tag team of all time, in my opinion, and so many people's opinions. And if you go to the Bleacher Report and they had the top 30 tag teams, they got the Anderson brothers number 1. And I don't know who did that list, but most of those people, I'm pretty sure, most of the people that probably compiled that list, they just knew of their reputations, or they probably saw them on film or whatever. It's hard to find video of them on YouTube. I guess you got to go back into the archives, WWE archives, and maybe watch Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling. Did a lot of stuff with Georgia Championship Wrestling and Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. But those guys, man, wow. All right, Richard Hood said Flair and Valentine was a great tag team. Now that tag team right there, if they would have stayed together, Flair and Valentine, they would have been the number one tag team of all time. They were dominating the Anderson brothers. Now Flair and Valentine, that right there, to tell you the truth, and I've already said this to Chris many times. Flair and Valentine is probably, they could have been the best tag team of all time. But, they definitely wasn't going to have that. Crockett wasn't going to have that. He had singles aspirations for Ric Flair. And Greg Valentine had his own singles, his own singles, being a single competitor himself. He already had his inspiration. He was already inspired, or he was already wanting to be a singles competitor, a big time singles competitor like his dad. But those guys had other ventures that they wanted to achieve outside of tag team wrestling. But man, they was incredible. They was great. Scott and Rick Steiner, of course, Ray. Rick and Scott Steiner, they have an argument. That's the reason I have them on the little marquee, the little poster that I did. Rick and Scott Steiner, those guys are, they're the third best, you ask me. They're the third best tag team that I've ever seen. First got the Anderson brothers. Second, I have right after the Anderson brothers, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, was just Ricky Steamboat at that time. Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. Third best tag team of all time is, in my opinion, is the Steiner brothers. Then you can fill it in after that. But Rick and Scott Steiner, they have a big argument. Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton. Yeah, Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton. And I know Chris will come in. Chris will tell you, he'll say Dennis Condrey. He'll say Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton. A lot of people like that version better. Only thing, that version, it looked better, but they wasn't as good as Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton. Wasn't as good because Dennis Condrey was just an outstanding wrestler. He really was an outstanding wrestler. No ends, ands, or buts about it. And it was a better version. It's just, Stan Lane was a very good wrestler, but when his contribution to the Midnight Express was, he just, he basically had a savate kick, a few different moves, a few punches, but he did not put in the work that he did when he was with Steve Keirn, if you ask me. But Stan Lane was a great wrestler. No, Ray. Harlem Heat, nowhere near the Anderson brothers, bro. Terry Gordy and Dr. Death Steve Williams, they are very good. Not as good as the Anderson brothers, but very, very good. Very good. But Harlem Heat, no. And that's one thing that Chris want to come in and talk about, Harlem Heat against Doom, because I told him flat out, they was good. Harlem Heat was good, but they wasn't as good as Doom. Doom was, oh my gosh, Doom was incredible. But Harlem Heat was good. And, I sit there and we was talking about it a little bit earlier today. Harlem Heat, they match up with Doom as far as power and is big, the size-wise and everything. They definitely match up with him. But that would have been a great tag team encounter, a great tag team rivalry feud if Harlem Heat was able to go up against Doom. But Doom had split apart by the time Harlem Heat came along, and you had Ron Simmons up there in the World Wrestling Federation calling himself, what was they calling him? Farouk Assad or whatever, pretty much ticked me off. The Funks. Yeah, Richard, the Funks was great, but the Funks did not stay together long enough. The Funks would get back and forth together, but the Funks wasn't as good as Ole and Gene Anderson. If you put those two, the Funks together, they wasn't as good as Ole and Gene Anderson. They wasn't, Jack and Jerry Briscoe, that's my fourth best tag team. The Funks was good, but the Funks wasn't better than the Briscoes. The Funks was real good together. Now, and it's probably because, like I said, they was great singles competitors. They was better apart. Dory Funk Jr. is probably, outside of Nature Boy Ric Flair and maybe Harley Race, probably the best wrestler I ever seen. Dory Funk Jr. was incredible. And I know a lot of people like to, they remember Terry Funk. A lot of people in this generation right here, they remember Terry Funk. But they're like, hey, Chris, he's 48. He's 10 years younger than me. And Chris, Chris remembers the Terry Funk that was going up against Ric Flair that was frail, that attacked Ric Flair out there. He wrestled Ricky Steamboat. He remembers the ECW Terry Funk, but that's not the Terry Funk that I want to remember. That's not the Terry Funk that I cared about. That Terry Funk was a shell of himself compared to the Terry Funk of the 70s, who was the NWA World Champion. That Terry Funk was one of the best wrestlers ever. That Terry Funk was incredible, big, tough, rugged, technical, could do anything in the ring. He was incredible, man. He was great. Will Rally Sport is in the building. What's up, Will Rally Sport, all the way from England, man? Good to see you. But yeah, that Terry Funk was incredible. Dory Funk Jr. was outstanding. Outstanding. I mean, this guy, wow. What else can you say about Dory Funk Jr.? Dory Funk Jr. and as many people, because some people say Terry Funk is the GOAT. Terry Funk was not the GOAT. He's not the GOAT. He wasn't as good as Harley Race. He wasn't as good as Flair, but he's very good. Wasn't as good as Briscoe. Briscoe only held it 2 times. Briscoe didn't want to hold the belt. He didn't want to travel like that. Briscoe was outstanding. But Dory Funk Jr., man. Dory Funk Jr. probably one of the top 3 or 4 wrestlers ever to put tights on. Terry Funk is in that top 10, top 15. But Dory Funk Jr., man, was just wow. I mean, he was something special, Richard. But let me go in the Assassins. No. Very good. Not as good as the Anderson brothers, but very good. Tim Horner, no. Lightning Express, no. All right. Hardy Boys, no. And that's one thing that earlier I was talking about. Somebody did mention. A guy told me they wasn't the best. I must have been smoking. He said the Hardy Boys. He said Hart Foundation, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, and LOD. And who else did? And basically named all those WWF tag teams. And only one I can say, Will Rally Sport, that he pinpointed somebody that was close to what the Road Warriors was LOD. But the version of LOD he saw was not the best version of LOD. If you didn't see the Road Warriors, you didn't see Hawk and Animal in their infamy. I can't even say the word. But if you did not see them when they was in their prime, you don't know. I mean, you miss greatness. Now that team probably could have beaten the Road Warriors. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would have beat the Road Warriors. They would have smashed the Road Warriors in the first couple matches. But as time went on, in a feud, could they beat them in a feud? I don't think they could beat them in a feud or in a rivalry. They could not beat the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors would have figured them out, and probably it would have wore them down. Would have broke their bodies down. Those guys they were just that good, technically good. Technically, they knew how to wrestle. They knew how to control the ring. But they would eventually beaten the Road Warriors, even the Road Warriors who was at their best. But those guys relied on power, brute strength. But they wasn't going to continue to beat a team like the Road Warriors. But let me catch up with these comments. I appreciate everybody coming in and pretty much in the things that you have to say. Yeah, the Funks was good in Japan, Richard. No ands, ands, or buts about that. Yeah, the Briscoes, 100%. Hanson and Brody. Yeah, Hanson and Brody was great. Even Hanson and Ole Anderson was great. Outstanding. But Hanson and Brody, no, even Hanson and Brody, they're too out of control. To beat the Anderson brothers, you had to be in control. You definitely had to be in control. You had to know everything. You wasn't going to go in there and beat them with brute strength. You wasn't going to go in there and beat them just by being wild man and things like that. You wasn't going to do that. That wasn't going to happen. All right. No ins, ands, buts about it. Let's see. Hanson and Brody, you got the Funks, the Briscoes. All right. Will Rally Sport says, hi, Harry. Will Rally Sport, what's up, my man, all the way from England. Like I said, best tag team ever. Are we doing okay? We're doing good, my man. Edge and Christian. Very good tag team, Raymond, but no. And Ray, you've been around a long time. You know better. You should know. You know better. But that was very good. Edge and Christian. And look, I take your word for it, man, because look, you've been around a long time and you know what good tag team wrestling is. But Edge and Christian, yeah, very good tag team. The Funks were good in Japan. Yes, sir, Richard. Legion of Doom, #1 in my opinion. FTR up there. Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. Will Rally Sport, man, look. I'm glad you enjoyed the Legion of Doom. I'm glad you enjoyed that. But, man, you know, hey, it's sad, man. It's sad that you didn't see LOD, and you wasn't even born. You didn't see LOD from 83 to 89 to 88. That 5-6 years, they was at their best. Body-wise, I mean, their bodies chiseled 100% at their best power. Just nobody could touch them at that time. Nobody. Hardy Boys, Edge, Christian, 2. Yeah. And Will Rap Sports says hi, chat. All right, I see Lucas in the building. What's going on, Lucas? Get you guys online here, man. Let me I need to see this thing a little clearly, more clearly here. All right, guys, give me just a second. I need to see this thing a little clearly, more clearly here. All right, guys, give me just a second, man. I need to see this thing clearly. All right, Lucas said don't send link because it's a school night. All right, Lucas. All right. Luke said, I got a Christian icon again. Okay. We're out of sport. I've heard Dory Funk was good. I've not seen him, much of him, though, wrestle as wasn't around in 80s and 70s. Yep, the Hart Foundation, Ray says. Yeah, that's one of the, the Hart Foundation, very good. The Hart Foundation, Ray, I will give you that. But the Hart Foundation, they're nowhere near as good as my team, my man. All right, Will Riley Sport, Cornette, and Midnight Express were good, very, very good. A top 10 tag team, no ends, ands, or buts about that. Hardy's Wrestling is almost here, including WWE. Okay, Love Triangle, my man Lucas. All right, I'm going to say Hart Foundation, Ray, good shout. Yeah, definitely Hart Foundation, very good. Ray Underwood said the Brainbusters, so that's Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, very good. A top 10, top 12 tag team, top 10 tag team of all time. No ends, ands, or buts about that. Will Riley Sport, good topic, Harry. Lots of discussion, lots of great tag teams over the years. What about the Steiners? They were awesome. Yeah, the Steiner brothers, number 3 in my book of all time. Number 3. Great tag team, outstanding, and could have been better. Probably could be number 1 if they would have stayed together a little bit longer. Yeah, another 3 to 4 years. All right. Nancy says, hey, guys, sorry I missed this. Hope all is well. Hope everything is well for you too, Nancy. Nancy says, rock and roll. Yeah, rock and roll is here to stay. Rock and Roll Express. Very good tag team. One of the top. You have to say one of the top 10 of all time. Got to say one of the top 10. All right, Will Rally Sport. I've seen that, Harry. Road Warriors 80s. I watched videos. They were beasts. Agree, so good. Yeah, they were very good, man. I'm glad that you watched videos and have studied them, Will Rally Sport. But yeah, they was something. They was something else. They were special. They were special. Man. All right. So, but yeah, I appreciate everybody coming in. Hey, if you are on here rocking with the Straight Up Wrestling Show, rocking with me, HBT, tonight, go ahead and hit that like, share, join if you're over on Facebook. If you're here on YouTube, you hit the like, share, subscribe. You hit the notification bell, ding, 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 so you know when we're on like times like these. And if you own Twitch, you do the same thing that you do here on YouTube. Hit that like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, ding, 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 so you know when we're on like times like these. And over on Twitch, guys, not Twitch, over on X, formerly known as Twitter, like, share, tweet, and retweet, and follow the Straight Up Wrestling Show. See my man Scott Larson is in the building. What's up, Scott Larson? Everyone knows Straight Up and hashtag Truth are the best tag team ever. No doubt about that, Scott. Appreciate it, man. All right. Will Rally Sport is in the building. Will says, I've seen that, Harry. Road Warriors in the 80s. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, you definitely check that out. All right. All right, my girl Alma Clark is in the building. Says, what's up, Harry? How are you doing this evening? Okay, just 1 second here. Says, how you doing this doing this evening? I'm doing pretty good. Resting up some, watching old WCCW early 80s, still coughing. Oh, cold, crud. Rock and Roll Express, Funks, Dusty, and Magnum TA. Dusty and Magnum TA was great. They definitely was great. I wish they would have had more time together. And I think maybe they beat the Road Warriors on the second for the second time for the Road Warriors beat them first time for the Crockett Cup Cup, and then I think maybe they beat the Road Warriors the second time. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, that was a great tag team. Dusty Rhodes, anybody that Dusty Rhodes team up with, Dusty was going to make a success as far as in a tag team. Kind of like Ricky Steamboat, in my opinion, he's probably the best tag team wrestler ever. It's between him, Ole Anderson, and Arn Anderson as far as being in a tag team and making a tag team successful. Those guys are great at doing that. No doubt about that. All right, my man Scott Larson says, seriously, Harry, how well do you know me? What's the best tag team ever, in my opinion? Man, come on, man. Come on, man. Wayne Ennis and Bloom, Ennis and Bloom, man. Come on now, man. I'm pretty sure that's who you're talking about, Scott Larson. But all right, man. But come on, man. Okay. All right, yo, give me just a second, guys. Let me put your comments here on the screen. All right, Ray says, what about the Los What? No. Los Guerreros, no. No, man, no. But hey, big ups to anybody. Look, Ray, man, look, I listen to you. Even Scott Larson, man. You, Scott Larson, a lot of these guys, man, hey, y'all have, I know nightmares, man, Danny Davis, and, oh, goodness sake, wait a minute. I messed up on that. Not Ennis and Bloom. What in the world I was thinking about? Yeah, Danny Nightmares, Randy Wayne and Danny Davis. Yeah, I messed up on that. Sorry about that, Scott. But, yeah. I just had them in my mind, man, because I think the last time I talked to you, I have a picture because I was about to put Wayne Bloom and Ennis up. Not Wayne. Yeah, I'm about to put that picture up, and I was thinking that was your tag team. But no, it was the Nightmares, Danny Davis and Kenny Wayne. Very good tag team. Very, very good tag team. But, man, now I'm not even going to say anything as far as comparing them to the Anderson brothers. It wouldn't have been fair. Scott, it wouldn't have been fair. I hate to say that. It wouldn't have been fair, man. Oh, yeah, the Valiant brothers, very, very good. Jimmy and Handsome Jimmy and Luscious John or Luscious, whatever the other one was. But, yeah, the Valiant brothers was very good back in the day. Because it was Jimmy Valiant, Johnny Valiant, and what was the other one's name? The other Valiant brother name. I can't remember the other one. Did Al Perez and Manny Fernandez in Southwest Championship Wrestling tag team? I do not remember. They probably did. But, I mean, if you want to talk about somebody who Manny Fernandez teamed up with, that's probably one of the both tag teams, both guys he teamed up with is definitely worth 20 in the top 20 mention. And that's Manny Fernandez and Dusty Rhodes. They was the World Tag Team Champions twice. Manny Fernandez and Rick Rude. Great tag teams. Manny Fernandez was a great tag team partner, and he had some great guys he teamed up with. But I can't remember him teaming with Al Perez. I think he did, but I can't really recall it right now. I don't want to be wrong on that, but most likely he did. All right. Goodness sake, Richard. Kurt and Carl Von Bronner. Wow. That's all I can really say about it. Yeah, they was good. That's all I can really say about that is wow. All right. Mag says, greetings, Harry and Straight Up Wrestling Universe. Sorry I'm late. Interesting discussion. That's okay. Appreciate you coming in, Mag. Appreciate it. Luscious Johnny, no doubt about that, Ray. Appreciate you, Ray. Appreciate that. Yeah, Luscious Johnny and Handsome Jimmy Valiant, great tag team, outstanding tag team. But was they good? Was they better than the Anderson brothers? Was they as good as the Anderson brothers? They was good, very good. But no. I've seen teams. I will put the Valiant brothers up there with Sergeant Slaughter and Don Cornotto. And Sergeant Slaughter and Don Cornotto is a top 10 tag team. They really are. Let's see. The Wild Samoans. Oh, yeah. The Wild Samoans, very, very good. Very good. Wow, man. Wow. Wow, man, that is hard. That is hard. I don't know if the Anderson brothers, I don't ever recall them ever meeting up with the Wild Samoans, but that would have been very, very good, very tough, a very tough go for the Anderson brothers and the Wild Samoans. I think not the Road Warriors, but I think the Anderson brothers was better. And the Wild Samoans, I don't put in the top 5, but they definitely have an argument for the top 10. Great tag team. Alpha and Sika, very, very good. And no other Samoan tag team has surpassed them. And when it comes to Samoan wrestlers, not many Samoan wrestlers have surpassed them. When it boils down to it, when I'm talking about skill and toughness, not many. Every Samoan wrestler that I've seen, I've always compared to those two guys. Everybody that comes along. Jerry and Ted Oates, very good. Very good. Didn't get there just due. But they was good. Richard, I really like these guys. And I know you're friends with Jerry, right? But yeah, I really like them a lot. What? No nasty boys laugh out loud? Nah, not the nasties. Not the nasty boys. If Brothers of Destruction didn't have such great solo careers, imagine how good. I don't know, man. I don't know. I tell you what. Very good tag team. But I tell you, what's the name? Doom. If they would have teamed up for a couple years, they will have a case. Of course, the Steiner brothers have a case. Even Ron Simmons with Bradshaw, they have a case. Very good tag team. A lot of good tag teams. But still, man, when I think back all the tag teams that I ever seen, I can't think of anybody as good as the Anderson brothers. No ends, ands, or buts about it. Richard Hood says Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. Very, very, very tough tag team. Very good. They did not command the ring the way the Anderson brothers did. Guys, give me just one moment here. Man, just want to make a text here. All right. But yeah, Tully and Arn, they was great. They was outstanding. And I know a lot of people, when they think about the Minnesota Ring Crew, if you say something about Ole and Gene Anderson, somebody always got to throw in Ole and Arn Anderson. They always do. And a lot of times, of course, I'll roll with it because they don't know Ole and Gene. They have no clue. When they think of Minnesota Ring Crew, they think of them. And for some reason, all right, just one second. All right. Okay. Somebody said, I just had a text. Let's see. What was that? Okay. Just one second here. I had a text from somebody. They watching, but they're not in the group chat. Said Gene and Ole Anderson and Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo. Yeah, Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo, great tag team. And they definitely could have had a case if those guys stayed together a little bit longer. But once again, singles aspirations. Has anybody mentioned Harlem Heat? Mag says, yes. Ray mentioned them. What the Hornswoggle? What are you talking about, Christine? I know what you're talking about, but no. All right, guys, I am having a hard time trying to keep up here, but that's okay. All right, Ray said he loved the Blackjacks. I like the Blackjacks, Blackjack Lanza and Blackjack Mulligan. Incredible. One of the toughest tag teams of all time. Not as good as the Anderson brothers, but yeah, very, very good. Love the Blackjacks, but I thought the Blackjacks should have been a little bit better. I mean, should have been together a little bit longer. They was in the AWA and they was in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, which is WWE now. They did wrestle and win titles. And great tag team. But to me, the competition was all in the NWA. It was in Crockett Promotions and Georgia, mid-South area. They didn't wrestle in those areas, at least not as the Blackjacks. Blackjack Mulligan did come to the Carolinas, come to Crockett Promotions, and he wrestled in Florida, and he wrestled some other NWA territories. And Lanza did too, but they was not together as a team. So that's the only reason I cannot say they was better than the Anderson brothers, because they didn't wrestle the competition that the Anderson brothers had to face. All right, Saucy Girl said Hornswoggle. And yeah, they definitely mentioned Harlem Heat. Mag, Harlem Heat was good, but Harlem Heat, nowhere near. I mean, Harlem Heat, I hate to say it when it comes to Harlem Heat. Harlem Heat, those guys benefited. They benefited hugely. They had a huge benefit from the competition that they was facing. They did not face the competition that the Steiners had to face. They didn't face the competition that the Midnight Express had to face night in and night out. They didn't face the competition of the Rock and Roll Express. They didn't face the competition that Anderson, the Anderson brothers had. They did not face the competition that Arn and Tully had. They did not face the competition even of Black Bart and Ron Bass, who was in that little mix there. The competition was just different. It was different. So, I mean, Harlem Heat, like I said, they was great. They was a great tag team. But by the time they was rolling, going for their titles and things, the toughest competition they had was like the Nasty Boys and Cactus Jack and Max. What was that guy? The guy who used to team up with Cactus Jack. They did not have great competition. So I kind of like lower the bar when it comes to them as far as those two as a tag team. Competition matters. Competition matters. The Fabulous Kangaroos, great tag team, Scott Larson. Going really old school, the Kangaroos. How many of you done seen the Kangaroos? They were good. They were good. Now, the Kangaroos was outstanding, but the best competition that the Kangaroos had was in the mid 70s when they went through IWA, and the Kangaroos had to face great teams like the Mongols, Bravo and Dino Bravo, Gino Brito, teams like that. And it was very good. I watched them. I used to watch the Kangaroos. I actually watched them a little bit earlier than that against people like George and Sandy Scott, teams like that. They was very good. But, and I did want to see those two teams. I did want to see that team wrestle against the Anderson brothers. That was a team I wanted to see, but I never got to see them against the Anderson brothers. So it's kind of really unfair to them to say that they could not beat the Anderson brothers. It would have been close. But in a few, I just don't think it. I don't think they would have beat them. Tell you the truth, I didn't see many teams take down the Fabulous Kangaroos. So, man, that's a good one, Scott. Really good. Richard said, Norval Austin and who? Sputnik and Monroe? No. All right. Let's see. All right. I thought you were going to say Norval Austin and didn't Norval Austin team up with Pistol Paris Wiley at one time? They was a pretty good team. All right. Let's see. Terry Bam Bam Gordy and Dr. Death Steve Williams, that's been mentioned. Alma, that was a very good tag team, very tough. And they could have gave them a run. They could have gave Ole and Gene a run and could have came close to beating them in a few. But in a 4 out of 7, I give the Anderson brothers 4. And if it went farther than that, if it went 10 times, I'm going to give the Anderson brothers 6, 7. I'm going to give them 7, 6 or 7. They're going to figure them out, and they're going to beat a team, like I said, that team was just big and powerful. Yes, they had a lot of wrestling skill, but they relied on their size. The Anderson brothers, they was just tactical, very smart in that ring. And they would work on, people be like, hey, the Anderson brothers, they work on one part of the body. The Anderson brothers, that's all they did. They worked on your arm. They get one arm and they work and they wear it down. And they were so good at cutting off the ring. Boxers always talk about how, cutting off the ring. These guys, man, I just never seen anybody cut off the ring like that. And when they double teamed you, they made sure every single double team counted. They were so good at it. They were so good. They was masters at this thing. They mastered it out. Those guys would take you apart, man. They really would. The Anderson brothers was outstanding. Love them. Lynn Rossi and Bearcat Brown. No. Pretty good team, but nope. Black Bart and Ron Bass, very good team there. Would have gave them a run. Would have been a tough going for Ole and Gene Anderson. No ins, ands, and buts about it. My man Glenn Wright is in the building. Sup, Glenn? What's up, man? Glad to see you. All right, Christine, she's cracking up. The Outsiders, Hall and Nash. Would have been one of the best tag teams ever if that team would have stayed together. That team would have stayed together and had a run together. But it was all concentrated on the goal of the NWO. And when that became, those guys basically became singles competitors and would team up every now and then. And a lot of that probably had to do with Hulk Hogan coming into the mix of being with that team. And everything just went out of whack. They brought Hogan in, they brought Eric Bischoff in, and then they brought everybody else. But that could have been one of the best tag teams ever. Great tag team and a big tag team, better than the Skyscrapers. So, I mean, a great tag team. But like I said, they threw that all away. They threw it all away. All right, just a moment here. No ins, ands, and buts about it. They threw all that away. Just 1 second. Do. All right. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, Hall and Nash was they were special. The Freebirds, man. Did they ever wrestle Ole and Gene Anderson? I believe they did. Well, I know they Ole Anderson and Stan Hansen. Ole Anderson and Stan Hansen. I know they wrestled them. I'm pretty sure they did. Freebirds, but no competition, man. No competition when it comes to the Freebirds against Ole and Gene Anderson. But I know they was in the territory up in Georgia at the same time. But no, the Freebirds against those two, no. Now, Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2, Mr. Wrestling 2 and Tim Woods, Mr. Wrestling, very good tag team and gave them a lot of trouble. But I'm going to tell you a team that gave them a lot of trouble, didn't stay together long enough, a team that used to dominate them. I'm going to tell you the teams that used to dominate my boys, the Anderson brothers. Now, the Anderson brothers, this was my favorite tag team. These guys were my favorite tag teams. I couldn't stand the Anderson brothers. I'm just going to say they're my boys because, man, you ever notice when sometimes something's great and it's in front of you, but you want to see it gone? You hate it so much that you want to see it gone. But when it's gone, you realize how great it was and you wish you saw it again. you wish that it was still there. Because look, and I didn't like Michael Jordan. Charles Barkley was my favorite player. Michael Jordan, I didn't care for Michael Jordan. But when he retired that first time, and he was gone for a couple of years, a year and a half when he played baseball, man, I missed it. I missed it big time. Mm-hmm. Wow. But yeah, I definitely, man, I missed it. But I missed it. Well, it looked like Christopher Burton is not going to make it on, guys. He just texted me, but hey, it's all good. Yeah, we still going. I appreciate you guys being here. But man, the Freebirds, they was not on the level of the Anderson brothers, 100%. But yeah, the Anderson brothers, yeah, I couldn't stand them guys. I just couldn't. I did not like the Anderson brothers. Wanted them gone. And like I said, man, look, I didn't like Michael Jordan, but I realized how much I missed that greatness of Michael Jordan when he was gone. Larry Bird, I couldn't stand Larry Bird in the Celtics. But when Larry Bird tore his back up, couldn't play like he always played, and was on the sideline and hurt all the time, man, I felt bad for him, and I felt bad as a basketball fan not to be able to see that man on the court performing the way he usually performs. I hated Magic Johnson. Couldn't stand him. And this is because I was a big Philadelphia 76ers fan. And anybody that was a threat or rivalry with the Sixers, which the Celtics was, and the Boston Celtics was, and the LA Lakers, I didn't care for their players. I didn't care for their teams. I didn't care for the Steelers because the Steelers was pretty much a rival against my team, the Cowboys, before we got our team, the Carolina Panthers, here in the Carolinas. But man, I used to be a big Cowboys fan, and so I couldn't stand Franco Harris, Terry Bradshaw, man, John Stallworth, Lynn Swann, Mean Joe Green, Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, L.C. Greenwood. I couldn't stand them guys, man. But when those guys got old and started retiring and everything, Dunny Shell and all them guys, them great Pittsburgh Steelers football players. And when they was gone, and then you had all these new guys, the guys that came in and took their places. And I'm like, these guys suck, man. I missed that. I was like, wow. Even though they was destroying my teams, beating everybody down and everything, I'm like, hey, man, that's what made the game great. That's what made the games great. Even baseball, even though Reggie Jackson, I couldn't stand it. But Reggie Jackson was one of the great baseball players that made it great. That's the same thing in wrestling. When Ric Flair got old, it was like I said, look, I wanted Ric Flair. I wish he would have retired probably in the late 90s when he came back to WCW, and he came back in Greenville. That was 97, 98. He came back and, confronted Bischoff. I wanted him to wrestle maybe 1 or 2 more years after that and retire, hang it up. Because I didn't want to see the Ric Flair that came on a little bit later, because Ric Flair had went to start hitting people below the belt, doing things, just crazy things. He wasn't the wrestler that he was before. And I'm like, wow. And that was the guy that I wanted to see. So, I mean, sometimes greatness, guys, we can downplay greatness, but we really want to see greatness. I mean, we want to see it. So we do not want that outstanding competitor, whatever it is, to be gone when it boils down to it deep down, because they are part of the reason that we watch the sport. All right. Yeah. Steve Keirn and Stan Lane. Yes, sir, Richard. I'm with that. They was, very good. Don Kent and Al Costello, really good. But I'm not going to put them in the realm. I'm not going to put them anywhere close to the Anderson brothers. Yeah, my man Glenn, fantastic. Yep, Steve Keirn and Lane. Lex Luger and Sting, good tag team. Lex Luger and Sting was very, very good. Not as good as the Anderson brothers, but very good. Lex Luger and Sting gave the Steiner brothers that was one of the greatest tag team matches that I ever seen when they went against the Steiners. Was it on Clash of Champions? I think it was on one of the pay-per-views. That was great. Ernie Ladd and Thunderbolt Patterson. Yes. Anytime you got Ernie Ladd in there, man, Ernie Ladd is gonna be special. Ernie Ladd was he's one of the best wrestlers ever. Don't get the credit for it, but one of the best wrestlers ever. To put on the tights and football players. No doubt. The Von Erichs, Von Erichs, very good. I don't think it's dedicated enough to their craft to where they would have defeated the Road Warriors. Not the Road Warriors, but the Anderson brothers. But they would have, they would have got close. They relied a lot on the talent that they did have, especially if it was David and Kevin. David and Kevin. Man, they would have had a great tag team matchup. But one thing that hurt them is their dad's involvement, Fritz Von Erich. But man, Jock and the Rogu, I can't even say their names anymore. Rogu brothers or whatever. But no. But they was very good. Yeah, the Mongols, I already mentioned them. Richard, Guido, and Bolo Mongo, very, very good. If anybody can beat them, that's another team that could beat them. Let's go ahead and go over some of the teams that you guys have mentioned that I think that could have took out the Anderson brothers or could have gave them a very good run. Now, Guido and Bolo Mongo, they definitely could have. If you have 5 matches, they're going to win 2 of them. Do I think they're going to defeat them all the way? They're going to win 2 of them. You have the Royal Kangaroos, the Fabulous Kangaroos. They would have won, 3 out of, 4 out of 7. I mean, 3 out of 7, they would have won. If you had they may have beaten the Anderson brothers 3 out of 7. I doubt they would have won 4. Harlem Heat, man, look, they would have got smashed. I don't think they would have won 1 match. If you had a series of 5, the Anderson brothers are going to take the first 3. That's all it is to it. The Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, the Legion of Doom going to take the first 2 matches. I just see a 7-match series. They're going to take the first 2. They're going to get 3, but they're going to take the first 2. The Anderson brothers are going to take the next 3. And the Road Warriors probably going to win this, the 6th match. And then the 7th match, the Anderson brothers is going to win that. But if you extended it a few more times, I think the Road Warriors, I think the Anderson brothers take 2 more of those, 2 out of 3. That's all it is to it. They are going to beat the Road Warriors at least 6 or 7 times out of 10. There's no doubt about that. And let me see, who else did we have on here? Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Terry Bam Bam Gordy in a series of out of even a series of 5. They're going to take 2 of them because they might take the first 1 and maybe the 3rd match. They're going to take that. But the Anderson brothers, they would have to, as far as Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Bam Bam Gordy, they are going to have to strategize and take these guys down. They're going to have to be smarter than them because Bam Bam Gordy and Dr. Death, Steve Williams, not just great power wrestlers, they were great wrestlers. So it's going to they will have a hard time with them. The Valiant brothers, they're going to get a couple matches. They're going to win a couple matches. I will say that, Ray. Yeah, Coco Beware. That's who it was. Yeah, Richard. Coco Beware. They was good. Pez Wiley and Tiger Conway Jr., very good. Very good. And Tiger Conway Jr. was outstanding. He was outstanding. Yeah, I think Pez will be the weak link in that. I really do. I don't think they would have too much of a chance. They may win 1 out of, if you got a series of 5, they may win. I believe they'll win 1. Rock and Roll Express. Rock and Roll Express is probably the first team that I've seen. If you have a series of 10 matches, the Rock and Roll Express probably take 5 of those matches. They probably would. Now, if you had a series of 7, the Anderson brothers are going to win that. They're going to outsmart them. But if you extended that 3 more matches and make it a series of 10 matches, the Rock and Roll Express is going to win 5 of them. There's no ins, ands, and buts about that. The Rock and Roll Express may not be the second best team after the Anderson brothers, but the Rock and Roll Express is going to have the intestinal fortitude. They are going to have what it takes to probably unseat them. Now, the teams that unseated them, and I believe that could eventually unseat them anytime they wanted to, Paul Jones, number one Paul Jones, and Chief Wahoo McDaniel. That was an incredible tag team. Incredible tag team. They always was taking down the Anderson brothers. Always taking out. If they was both alive and in their peaks today, and you had set up a series of 7, the Wahoo McDaniel and Paul Jones going to beat them 4-2. Wahoo McDaniel and Paul Jones always beat the Road Warriors. I mean, not the Road Warriors. Wahoo McDaniel and Paul Jones always beat the Anderson brothers. They did. They did. I have to admit. But were they better than the Andersons? For the time being that they was a tag team, yeah, they were. But they was only a tag team for about a little bit less than a year. About a year. Incredible. That tag team, Greg the Hammer Valentine and Ric Flair, was better than the Anderson brothers. Now, another tag team, Steamboat and Youngblood. Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. They beat the Anderson brothers, I believe, more than the Anderson brothers beat them. But that don't make them a better team. But they did beat them more than they beat them. But I attribute most of that to Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood, their youth. They hadn't even reached their peak. And they were just younger, faster, quicker. The Anderson brothers was up there. They wasn't in their peak. So I don't know if they could have beat. When I think back to it, I'm thinking back to the Anderson brothers of 75, 76, 77. They would have beat Steamboat and Youngblood. They would have took them out. They was great. They was outstanding. But Steamboat and Youngblood still would have stuck in there. That would have been a great feud, but I give the Andersons slightly the edge over that. But Paul Jones and Wahoo McDaniel, a team that was better. But Paul Jones and Wahoo McDaniel did not stay together. That's the difference there. They didn't stay together long enough. Greg the Hammer Valentine and Ric Flair, I even remember everybody was saying they pulled that team apart. They banned the team. But I remember that. They like made them give back the titles or something like that. Same thing with Steamboat. Crockett wanted Steamboat to be an individual star. He was just such a huge star. He was their biggest baby face. So because you had Paul Jones and Ricky Steamboat. I'm talking about when Paul Jones and Ricky Steamboat. Now that was another great tag team that used to beat up on the Anderson brothers. But they split that team apart. Well, it's not that Paul Jones turned on Ricky Steamboat, but Paul Jones and Ricky Steamboat was such great singles wrestlers. Same thing with Wahoo McDaniel and Paul Jones. Those teams couldn't stay together because they were such great singles competitors. Yeah, Richard Hood, no doubt about it. The Road Warriors, man, great tag team. And like I said, they could have smashed the Anderson brothers, especially the first couple times, but the Anderson brothers was going to figure those guys out. Okay, you said they wrestle Ole and Arn. Okay. Bob Orton Jr. and Dick Slater. Slater, you must be talking about the Freebirds wrestle. Yeah, very good team. Bob Orton Jr. and Dick Slater. But no, they couldn't deal with the Anderson brothers. No ands, ands, or buts about it. Couldn't deal with it. All right, Tom Clark. What's going on? Tom Clark from Tom Clark's Main Event is in the house. See what Tom had to say. Tom says Hawk and Animal, best of all times to me because they made more money than everyone else. And every time they went to a promotion, business improved. They moved the needle wherever they went. Yeah, they did, Tom. They did. I mean, but yeah, just because they did that, and they did. I will say that 100%. That still does not make them the greatest tag team ever. Now, was they the most exciting? Yes, they were. And look, I would rather see the Road Warriors than anybody. I mean, they was outstanding, man. I mean, you couldn't beat a Road Warrior pop. Anytime the Road Warriors came to Greenville, I was at the Greenville Memorial Auditorium. Anytime the Road Warriors, if they was anywhere near as far as South Carolina, I was trying to get out to wherever they was at. If they was not on, because, they was on Crockett's A team. Mostly, and the A team didn't always come to Greenville, South Carolina. So if they was in Greensboro, I would get out there. If it was in Columbia, I would get out there. So, I was trying to get, in Richmond, Virginia. I traveled out traveled there from Greenville, South Carolina to go see the Road Warriors. So yeah, Road Warriors, as far as they was gonna anywhere they went, they was a sensation, man. They was like Gorgeous George, what Gorgeous George was back in the day. He was a sensation wherever you went. It sold out. Ric Flair, man, from 79 to 84, 85, anywhere he went, if Ric Flair was on the marquee, Ric Flair, bam, it was going to sell out. It just did. Hulk Hogan, when he became the world heavyweight champion, WWF champion up in New York, and wherever he went, Boston Gardens, wherever he went, especially if he stayed up there on the northwest, the northeast, he stayed on the northeast, they was going to sell out anywhere up there. Now, they came down south. He had a little bit of trouble because people down south did not care about him. But a lot of places, if he went on the West Coast, Midwest, the northeast, he sold out everywhere he went. But nobody did it like the Road Warriors. Nobody did it like the Road Warriors. Those guys, business, like you said, business improved everywhere. I agree with you 100%. Tom, on that. No ends, ands, or buts about that, man. And big ups to you. That's a great. I'm going to go ahead and pretty much put a star on it. That's a great comment. But, yeah, that doesn't make them, in my book, it's not going to make them the best of all time. It just not. Just because they sold out everywhere they went. I remember Mil Mascaras selling out everywhere he went. Because Mil Mascaras, he was a sensation. But that did not make Mil Mascaras the best, even though I think Mil Mascaras is one of the best wrestlers of all time. But, hey, as far as the Road Warriors, like I said, if I had to watch matches of any just one team, it's going to be the Road Warriors. Straight up. So, hey, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you to a certain point. But, yeah, and they still have the argument to being the best of all time. If you look at every angle, if you take every attribute of every team, you can still argue them as the number one tag team. The Torres brothers, very good tag team, Raymond. The British Bulldogs, Richard, yep, very good tag team. They have an argument. And we said the Torres brothers. Well, you talking about the Tolis brothers or the Torres brothers, Richard? All right, let's see. Green Randall, what's up? My man is in the building. What's up, Green Randall? The New Day have to be up there, even if the division isn't as stacked as it once was. They are extremely successful, especially now that the Aussie icon Grayson Waller has joined. Look, New Day, as far as their accomplishments, you can't. It's not too many arguments you could put against that. But when you look at the New Day, you can look at people like, you can look at Dudley Boys, who had more achievements than them. You can look at Hardy Boys, and you can look at a lot of those guys who achieved a lot as a tag team. They have the crowns, they have the trophies to put out and say, okay, we're the greatest of all time. But was they the greatest of all time as far as the eye could see? As far as the eye test. And as far as the eye test, no, they wasn't the best of all time. And yes, I used to watch. I've watched the New Day, watched them for years. But as far as the eye tests go, no, I would not put them as number one. Richard, Doom, like I already said it, Doom. If Doom had been together for a long time, if those guys had lasted as a tag team, yeah, Doom will have a big argument. If they went for 2 years, they will have a big argument as the number one tag team. And Doom against the Anderson brothers, Doom may have beat the Anderson brothers. They may have been one of the teams that could overtake the Anderson brothers, because I just don't see Butch Reed or Ron Simmons. I don't see them getting. I do not see those guys getting wore down as far as their arm. As far as the Anderson brothers, Ole and Gene will wear you out by destroying your arm, and I don't think that would happen with those two guys. So I just don't think they would have been put in that position. Same thing with the Road Warriors. It would have been hard to put the Road Warriors in that position, but I do think they would have got the Road Warriors after a while. The Road Warriors I just think their ring psychology was not good enough to keep them out of the situation that they would have been trapped in against the Anderson brothers. No ands, ands, or buts about that. Let's see where we at here. Steve Keirn and Stan Lane. Yeah, Ray, we already talked about that. Yeah, the Fabulous Ones definitely would have gave him trouble, or was it the Fantastics there with those guys? The Texas Outlaws, yeah, Dick Murdoch and Dusty Rhodes probably would have beat the Anderson brothers. I don't think they ever went against them. I don't think they ever battled them. I really don't. The Texas Outlaws was heels. The Anderson brothers were heels, and they did not make a habit of putting heel versus heel teams back then. But yeah, the Texas Outlaws, they could have beat them. They could have beat them, and possibly been a better team if the Texas Outlaws, which they was together for a long time, not as together as long as the Anderson brothers, but they definitely have a case. And what we're getting into now, guys, is basically we are talking about now from these teams, what Richard is putting up and everybody's putting up is teams that could have went in, into battle with the Road Warriors and gave the Road Warriors all kind of trouble or beat them in a feud. That's what I'm basically talking about now. These teams, a lot of these teams that everybody's coming up with. When I look at what I saw from each team in the ring, yeah, a lot of these teams pretty much could have gave these guys a great battle inside and outside of the ring. All right, Christine Saucy Girl says Soul Patrol. Oh, wait a minute. Soul Patrol, Twin Towers, Moondogs. Yeah. Rex and Spot, they could have gave the Anderson brothers a very good match. Booker T and Goldust. Booker T, it depends on how long Booker T and Goldust stay together and give it their all to be able to sustain the attack that the Anderson brothers were going to bring to them. Killer Bees, Brian B. Blair, and my man Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, no. Now, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, back the AWA days, I'm pretty sure you didn't get to see these guys. Jumpin' Jim Brunzell and Greg Gagne probably would have gave him a run. They would have gave him a run plenty of times. Powers of Pain, yes, they was big and powerful enough, but another Road Warriors type tag team, Warlord and Barbarian, they would have had to overpower them, and I don't think they could have did it in a series of matches. We're talking about a series of matches, guys. All right. Foreign Legion, no. But those are good. That is very good, Christine. Very good. Each and every one of them. Richard says Dick the Bruiser, and Crusher. Yeah, Dick the Bruiser and Crusher. That would have been something. Yeah, if you look at both of them in their prime, I give Ole and Gene a slight edge, because Dick the Bruiser and Crusher, they were so used to just running over everybody, just running through them. And like I said, you have to rely more on strategy with the Anderson brothers. You would have to rely on strategy to beat them. You had to be smart in and outside of that ring. And not saying Bruiser and Crusher wasn't, but they annihilated people so fast and so quick up in the old AWA, out in the WWA. They used to just annihilate people. I just don't know if they would have been able to handle adversity with. I do not think they would have been able to handle the adversity that they would have had to face if they would have went up against the Anderson brothers. I just don't think that they would have been able to overcome that. All right, Richard says Thunderbolt Patterson and Jerry Briscoe. Yeah, very good tag team. Very good tag team. Now, Jack and Jerry, whoo. Now, Jack and Jerry did go up against the Anderson brothers back in the day, up in the old Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area, and the Jim Crockett Promotions. Even before that, when it was called East Coast Championship Wrestling, they used to wrestle up against the Anderson brothers. That was a very good. But I think they was going up when back when it was East Coast Championship Wrestling. That was back in the 60s, early 70s, right? I think they changed to Mid-Atlantic around 1972. They was going up against. They were going up against Lars Anderson and Gene Anderson. Now, they was better than Lars and Gene. But Gene and Oli, Fuji and Tanaka, Mr. Fuji and Tanaka, very good tag team. Very good tag team. Very close. But I will roll with Mr. Fuji and Mr. Saito against the Anderson brothers. Would have been a better tandem, but they wasn't strong enough either. But Fuji and Tanaka was very good. Very good. Ray said, did Ivan and Nikita Koloff ever wrestle the Anderson brothers? No, they didn't. Let's see. Yeah, Gene Anderson had retired. He was a manager at that time. He had been retired for years. So no, they did not. Would Ivan and Nikita beat the Anderson brothers? No, not that version. Now, if you take Ivan Koloff back from the 70s, when the Russian Bear was all big and powerful and strong, they would have had a better chance. Him combining with Nikita, who was brute force. But like I said, once again, because Ivan was very smart. Ivan Koloff was very smart. He was strategic in that ring. So he would have been able to match wits with Oli and Gene. But Nikita was just a bull. Nikita was just a bull that just ran over people. And once Nikita gets in trouble and had to think, I don't know if he would have been able to think as good as the Road Warriors, but they would have gave him a great run. Because Nikita Koloff, he showed how smart he was when he was in that series against Magnum TA, that 4 out of 3. And he won 4 out of 3. Hey, Nikita was able to adapt to every situation to win that matchup against Magnum TA. Now, am I saying that Magnum TA is this incredible juggernaut and that you had to be very smart to overcome Magnum TA? That Magnum TA was just a great wrestler. Magnum TA was not that good, guys. And I will be doing a show on Magnum TA. Magnum was good, but he was not that good. Today's LA Knight is Magnum TA to me. That's the same wrestler. Magnum TA, LA Knight. And I think Magnum was just a little bit better. But Magnum TA, I know you hear Ric Flair and everybody said he was going to put the belt on him, but there was plenty of times. I remember back in the day, and maybe a lot of people don't remember that, but after he had his wreck and everything, and after he had his wreck, it seemed like a lot of people wanted to sympathize with him. Jim Crockett wanted to sympathize with him, and Ric Flair, everybody, he was going to be the champ. He was going to be the champ. They tried that. They tried to get close to that, and was seeing how the fans reacted to what was going on. And now he had the female fans in lock. They they loved him. Now in the WWE, he would have been a great champion. They wouldn't just had the man and the kids and all that. They would have had the women. They would have had everything with him. And Vince McMahon wanted Magnum TA, but Magnum TA, he did not have the talent, and you had to have the talent back then. The NWA, they relied on talent more than anything. He didn't have the talent to beat Ric Flair and make it look legit. So he didn't get the title. All right. Let's see where we're going to next. All right. Michael Human says, all right. Nancy says, oh, yes, rock and roll all the way. Yeah, like I said, Rock and Roll Express, they would have gave him a hard time. They really would have. And they probably could have overcame them. I mean, you wasn't going to take Ricky and Robert. They had so much heart, especially Ricky. So much heart. You wasn't going to take them down by just beating them down as far as working on that one body part, working on that arm. And Robert, man, Robert, he fed off the strength that Ricky had. He fed off of that, and Robert would have been able to overcome too. So I just think that's a team that most definitely could have beat him. Dutch Savage and Don Jardine, very good, very good. I don't know about that though. Very good. Dutch Mantell and Frankie Lane, yes, very, very outstanding. But yeah, Dutch Mantell went up. He ran some run-ins with the Anderson brothers, but yeah, they would have lost, but they would have gave a very good showing for themselves. Blackjack Mulligan. The Blackjacks, yeah, Blackjacks, 100%. Christine Saucy Girl, British Bulldogs, Demolition. Demolition wouldn't have had a chance against the Andersons. They would have destroyed them. They would have destroyed Demolition. Destroyed them. You put 7 matches, 6 out of 7, they're going to easily win 6 out of 7 if they let them wrestle 7 times. British Bulldogs, they would have beat them too. British Bulldogs maybe had maybe squeaked out a win or two, couple wins, 2 out of 5. Blackjacks, it could go either way. But the Blackjacks, I think if you go 10 matches, they're going to beat the Blackjacks 7 out of 3 or 6 out of 4. But the Blackjacks would have came as close as any one of those teams, but Demolition would have got destroyed. They would have got destroyed. Not saying that Demolition wasn't good wrestlers, because on their own accord, they was great wrestlers. Something about that team. I think they gelled well, but it was something about that team. And yes, Demolition was a great tag team. And not saying that they didn't have great competition when they was up in the World Wrestling Federation, the WWF, which is the WWE. They did have good competition. You know, I can't sit here and say Hart Foundation, British Bulldogs, you know, any other iteration of tag teams that they came up with back then, because they came up with a lot of teams. They had the Killer Bees. They had a lot of teams that went up against Demolition. But I'm not going to sit here and say that those tag teams up in the World Wrestling Federation was comparable to what we saw in the NWA back then. What we were seeing in Crockett Promotions, they wasn't. They was good, but they wasn't. So, and I know you didn't see Crockett Promotions, Christine. So, I mean, you didn't see Jim Crockett Promotions, so you can't make a comparison to that. But I did, and I saw both. It's not that I'm being biased. I saw both. I saw all of them. All right. Let's see. Michael Human Nancy says, yes, I went to Greenville to see Animal Hawk and to Spartanburg too. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Hawk and Animal. My man Richard Hood says, Boo Armstrong and Bob Armstrong and Robert Fuller. Yes. Give me just a second, guys. I got to make good. Wow, I haven't even put this on my Facebook page in the Straight Up Wrestling Show. I got to do that. What kind of craziness that's going on here? Guys, I got to switch this on over. Wow. Give me just 1 second, and I will be right here, guys. I will get this thing going here. Let's see. But I got to switch over a couple times here. Wow, man. Yeah, let me put this over. Let me do some sharing on Facebook. I always get to do that. I always forget to do that. I don't know why. I always do that. All right, let's see. Bob Armstrong and Robert Fuller. A younger Bob Armstrong, 70s Bob Armstrong, yes. And 70s Bob Armstrong and 70s Robert Fuller, yeah, they would have gave him a hard time, would have gave him a great match. I don't know if they would have beat him. They probably would beat him a couple times, but overall, no. No, but yeah, Bob Armstrong, Bullet Bob Armstrong, man, anytime that he's in the ring, I think he has a chance to win. Even Robert Fuller, the stud Robert Fuller, he was great. He was outstanding. Dr. David Schultz and Dennis Condrey, very, very good. Very good. Yes, Richard, very good. But would they overcome him? No. No flipping way. And like I said, the Anderson brothers was just too good. And let's talk about the legendary feuds that the Anderson brothers was in. The most famous feuds that they was in is probably against Wild Homie Daniel, Paul Jones, Jay Youngblood, Ricky Steamboat, against the Briscoes. Those are the three most famous ones that I can remember right now. Let's see. They had some other ones. I think they had one against Tiger Conway Jr. and Rufus R. Jones, Rufus R. Freight Train Jones and Tiger Conway Jr. That was a great feud. Let's see. Against Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2. That was a great feud. But overall, they came out of each. They almost came unscathed. Now, like I said, they did lose. They did lose that feud against Paul Jones and Chief Wild Homie Daniel. But it came out on top because Paul Jones, Wild Homie Daniel, they had, like I said, singles aspirations, and they did not work as hard as they could have to overcome that. Now, Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood ended their reign. They ended their reign of terror. And, you know, what is the name? Gene Anderson was at the end of his rope. He was retiring. I think he retired in like 81, right as Steamboat and Youngblood was pretty much taking off and doing a lot of damage, really dominating everybody. But Gene Anderson, he was old man, just basically done. and just went into management. But I mean, but he was still great. He was still great. And man, they beat Steamboat and Youngblood a lot of times. But when it boiled down to it, Steamboat and Youngblood, they finished them off. But Steamboat and Youngblood, to me, could have beat anybody. And I didn't see a tag team over as well as much as Steamboat and Youngblood as far as baby faces go until I saw the Rock and Roll Express. Now, the Road Warriors, they was heels and was over with everybody as heels. Now, when they was heels before, they had came back to face Ivan Koloff and Nikita Koloff. Now, look, when we look at the Road Warriors as heels, everybody hated the Road Warriors, hated them back in 83, 84, hated the Road Warriors. They come back in 85, face Ivan and Nikita Koloff. Everybody hated the Russians. So that's when they got their pop. That's when everybody started turning and started rolling with the Road Warriors because they hated the Koloff so much. It's not that the Road Warriors changed or anything. The Road Warriors were still bad guys. They was just evil. But they was fighting against a worse evil, and they was fighting against the Russians, who we was having a Cold War in real life with. And they could not stand the Road Warriors. So, I mean, they couldn't stand Ivan and Nikita Koloff. And people couldn't stand them, so people started cheering the Road Warriors. And they became fan favorites after that for a while, for a good while. Christine said, look at, let's see. Matt says, look at Christine calling out some good but not forgotten tag teams. Yep. Nancy says, Greg Valentine, Ric Flair. That would have been the best tag team of all time. Nancy. Now, we already talked about that. That would have been the best tag team of all time. That's the best two guys teamed up that I ever seen in my life. They are. They was only together for 6 months, and then they came back and they did it again. Then Greg Valentine turned on Ric Flair. I'll never forget that. He turned on Ric Flair because Greg Valentine wanted what Ric Flair had, but Ric Flair was just too popular. He was already. You can even go. You look up AI, and he was talking about, as far as all the Jim Crockett guys, all the guys that was the NWA, the Jim Crockett Promotions guys, and all the great wrestlers, and they had Ric Flair there in 1979. Said who was already at that time. He was already a household name, and he was, man. He was popular everywhere. I mean, all over the country, people knew who he was. And that was a long time ago. That was back, I was in like 6th grade. But Ric Flair, man, he's been huge for a long time. But Greg Valentine, he was known, he teaming up with Ric Flair, and he hung out with Ric Flair and everything. But people ignored, people like that. Black Jack Mulligan was huge. But Ric Flair was on another level at that young age, and people knew he was going to be the world champion. They just knew. And like I said, back in that time, 70, 77, 78, 78 to 81, the most famous wrestlers in the world was Andre the Giant, Dusty Rhodes, and Ric Flair. As far as the top three, they was the top 3 wrestlers in the world. And then if you want to throw it to the top 5 or top 7, you got to throw in. You throw in Mil Mascaras, Tony Atlas. Let's see. Man, I guess you say Stan Hansen and Bruno Sammartino. But Sammartino wasn't as big worldwide as those other guys because, he was the WWF champion, which is WWE. He was that champion, but he was mostly known on the northeastern part of the United States. They didn't travel the world like the NWA champion. Even the AWA champion traveled to more states than the WWE champion. Nick Botwinkle, he traveled to more states than Bob Backlund did, or Bruno Sammartino. Christine says, Mag is called Duck Go. Laugh out loud. Saucy Irish Mama 62 live out loud. Alex Smirnoff and Ivan Koloff. Okay. Mag is Duck Go, Google's safer search engine. Oh, snap. My man Richard says Harley Race and Larry Heenan. Man. Larry Axe Heenan and Harley Race. Very good tag team. Tough. Very tough. Could have gave him a serious run. Serious run. Didn't Nick Botwinkle team up with Harley Race? I think Nick Botwinkle and Harley Race teamed up a good bit of times.
In December 1984, Botwinkle returned to All Japan Pro Wrestling, participating in that year's World's Strongest Tag Determination League with Harley Race as his partner.
All right.
This is from Wikipedia.
Okay, I appreciate that, Siri. She was listening to me, guys. But if not, Nick Botwinkle, he teamed with somebody. I can't remember. It was a very good tag team. But I was very little when that happened. I can't remember who it was, but it was a great tag team. Great tag team. That's before Botwinkle was a world champion. I can't remember who it was. Christine says, the Von Erichs, yeah, very good. They would have gave, like I said, those guys definitely would have been in the running. Yes, he did. Richard said, why Daniel messed up Gene Anderson's teeth with those chops. Yes, I'll never forget when he knocked Bolo. Not Bolo. I was talking about Guido Bolo. He knocked out Dean Malenko's father's, Boris Malenko, knocked his teeth out with those chops. And that's when I started really paying attention to wrestling. Because I was watching it sporadically at that time. I was really little, but when I was 8 years old and he knocked, I think I was 7 or just turning 8, and he knocked the teeth out of Boris Malenko. That's when I started paying attention to wrestling. Every week it came on, and I started going every Monday night in Greenville. Let's see. Yeah, Greg Valentine was special. Richard Hood said, I like Greg Valentine's work. Strong. Incredible. It's an argument that he was better than his dad. I think he was better than his dad. He had more than what his dad had. Now, his dad was tough. But Greg was a chip off the old block. A lot of people for years didn't want to really acknowledge that. But, man, I think he was just as good as Johnny. Johnny was just incredible. In Japan, yeah, Pat Patterson. Yeah, Nick Botwinkle and Pat Patterson. Yeah, that's it. They was great. Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens, which you already put that forward. Yeah, they was a great tag team. But, man, I have to say, yeah, did I say Ray Stevens and Greg Valentine? Ray Stevens and Jimmy Valiant and Jimmy Valiant and Ray Stevens the cripple with Ray Stevens was outstanding. They was outstanding. Paul Orndorff and Jimmy Snuka and Paul Orndorff. Great. They held the NWA World Tag Team Championships for like a year, I think. They was very good. Very good tag team back in 1979. Let's see. Man, it was a lot. It was a lot of them. But, yeah, I just basically want to come on here and pretty much put forward my thoughts about the Anderson brothers. And, yeah, I got a lot of participation from a lot of people about a lot of different tag teams. And, yeah, I think the Anderson brothers are number one, 100%. And let me pull up, guys. I did have a list. And, like I said, I don't want nobody to get mad at me because, like I say, the Anderson brothers, not the Anderson brothers, but the Road Warriors are very low on this list, guys. It's my favorite tag teams. And this was a random list because it was on somebody who had the top 10, top 15 tag teams that was on Facebook. And I just went ahead and list teams that I could think of right then and where I would situate those teams. So, because they wanted my opinion, and I went ahead and did it real quick. But I went back and I reassessed these teams. It is not my order. Not actually my order, but this is a good indication. Okay. All right. So HBT's top tag teams, guys, let me run them down. Number 1, I had Ole and Gene Anderson. Number 2, I had the Steiner brothers. Number 3, I had Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. Number 4, the Road Warriors. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is when I went and changed it up on May the 14th. Number 5, I had Jack and Jerry Briscoe. Number 6, I got the Rock and Roll Express. Number 7, I have Terry Gordy and Dr. Death Steve Williams. Number 8, I got the Midnight Express. Number 9, I got Dino Bravo and Gito Brito. And number 10, I got Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, guys. That's my top 10. I'm going to go over my top 10 one more time. I'm going to do it 2 more times. Number 1, I have Ole and Gene Anderson. Number 2, I got the Steiner brothers. Number 3, I got Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. Number 4, I got the Road Warriors. Number 5, I got Jack and Jerry Briscoe. Number 6, I got the Rock and Roll Express. Number 7, I got Terry Gordy and Steve Williams. Number 8, I got the Midnight Express. Number 9, I got Dino Bravo and Gino Brito. And number 10, I have Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. And one more time, guys, and I'm gonna do a list. I'm gonna put the pictures of them and everything like that. I'm gonna do some kind of poster, something, and post that up in the group and do something else with that. But yeah, once again, I'm gonna do my top tag. I'm gonna do my top 10 tag teams. Thank you, Richard. I'm gonna do that one more time. Number 1, I got Ole and Gene Anderson. Number 2, I have the Steiner brothers. Number 3, Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. Number 4, the Road Warriors. Number 5, Jack and Jerry Briscoe. Number 6, I got the Rock and Roll Express. Number 7, I have Terry Gordy and Dr. Steve Williams. Number 8, the Midnight Express. Number 9, Dino Bravo and Gino Brito. And number 10, Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. So that's my top 10. I appreciate that, Richard. And once again, Richard knows those tag teams. No ands, ands, or buts about it. And yes, some of the tag teams that's mentioned definitely has an argument to pretty much be in my top 10. The Blackjacks, Nick Botwinkle and Ray Stevens. Man, a lot of great tag teams. Even some, you can look at Demolition to a certain point, especially a couple of guys, one of the guys in there who was a mass assassin for years. Like I said, those guys are outstanding. But, the Assassins even got an argument. But I would put like the Assassins number 13. Demolition somewhere after 15 or something like that. But, hey, a lot of great tag teams. Even Black Bart and Ron Bass, I would throw in the top 20, top 25. Let's see. The Funk Brothers, I'll have them around 18. And that's only because the Funk Brothers did not wrestle a lot as tag teams. They did, but they didn't. I think their dad wanted both of them to be world champions, which both of them achieved world champions. And Dory Funk Jr., outside of Ric Flair, I say Dory Funk Jr., outside of Ric Flair and Lou Thesz, Dory Funk Jr. is probably the 3rd best world champion of all time. I even put him up above Harley Race. Dory Funk Jr. held that belt for 4.5 years before it was taken away from him. Dory Funk Jr. was a great world champion. He's on the Mount Rushmore of world champions, NWA world champions. Let's see. Terry Funk had it for 2 years. Great, man. A great run as the champion, but make no mistake, I don't think he's better than Dory. He was nowhere near as good as Dory, but very good. But Dory, believe me, Dory rather for his brother. Dory loved Terry so much, he rather for his brother to have bigger accolades than him, and he let that be. So big up to Dory Funk Jr. He did not try to overshadow his brother, and he didn't. And that was outstanding, man, because he could have. I mean, Dory was great. Dory would stay out of the territories that Terry was in, and because anytime he went there, it kind of diminished a little bit. It diminished Terry a little bit. Every time he got in the same territory that Terry was in, Terry went down, even though Terry's name was getting up there. Even when Terry was the world champ, if Dory came and he was in that same region, in that same area, that same territory, Terry was taken down a little bit, not a notch lower than Dory. It just is what it is, man. But that's how it was. But look at any teams, the teams that can overcome it, which I didn't put Paul Jones and Wahoo McDaniel in that top 10, which they should be in that top 10. But teams that I can say that was better, that had long runs as a tag team, Steamboat and Youngblood and the Steiner brothers, and maybe the Road Warriors. Those are the only 3 teams I can say that are just as good or better. Straight up. But I appreciate everybody coming in. But hey, if you haven't hit that like, share, join. If you're over on Facebook, you have not hit that like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, ding, 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 to know when we're on over here on YouTube, or Twitch, and X, man, you haven't hit that like, share, tweet or retweet, hey, definitely go ahead and do that. But we appreciate everybody coming in, man, rocking with the Straight Up Wrestling Show. But I'm HBT, and I'll talk to you guys later. I am out of here. Stay straight up. Before I say peace, let me get these last few comments, guys. All right. My man, Mag Magnum says, great show, Harry. Good night, everyone. Yeah, definitely good night to everyone. But hey, with that being said, all I got to say is stay straight up once again. Peace.